Great news, besties. We officially made it through January. And if you're anything like me, January is the freaking longest month of the year. So I am so excited we made it. And now it is time for a January reading update. I'm taking you with me as I set up my room so you can see all the hard work I put into making this video look a little bit prettier than it normally would. It's really cloudy outside today, so we don't have enough light. So let there be light. God, that's actually really blinding. Look at my dog. She's a star. She's ready for her close-up. You ready? Tell Mana. You're doing such a good job. And Ryan is actually in the middle of making me eggs so I can not starve to death. Do you want to say hi, Ryan?
Hi, Ryan. Not just any type of eggs. What are they?
They're crispy eggs. I don't know if people can hear you. You might have to talk near my boob.
I'm making crispy eggs. Is that better?
That's perfect, thank you. I'm a weirdo who actually hates eggs, and our diet requires that I eat eggs like 18 times a day. And Ryan found a way that I like my eggs, and they have to be extra cooked. So like super, super well done. So every day he makes me crispy eggs, and he is the best. But let me find my goddamn stick. I think it's in here. I was making thirst traps earlier.
Me too.
We always make thirst traps.
Sure.
Found it. Okay. Now, you guys can see how beautiful the lighting is now that we have all that light. And this is how the magic happened. And if anyone ever thought that it was me that ended up buying all these lights, this camera equipment, the mics, anything like that, absolutely not. None of this was me. This was all Ryan. So Ryan is actually the man behind literally everything you see. I'm just the face. I'm just told to sit here and look pretty and talk to you guys, and Ryan makes everything else happen. So applause for Ryan. Anna wants to be a part of this. Come on, Anna. All right, you may sit with me. Okay, all right, so you are getting January wrap up from me and Anna. Anna, get back there. You have to share my seat. January's theme of the month was actually Bad Bitch January. So I told book club that I thought it would be a great idea to kick off 2025 right, and we were gonna read a whole bunch of books about FMCs that just BBE, like, let's go. And I also had a New Year's resolution that this year I wanted to do a little bit better about not rating every book a 5-star read. And did I read 12 books in January and rate them all 5 stars? Absolutely I did. But that's because they were that good. So let's go through them. Okay, so the very first book that I read was Seventh Circle by Tate James, and the second book I read was actually the second book of the series called Anarchy. So that series is called the Hades series. It has a total of 4 books. So I only read the first 2 so far, but it's not because I didn't like the series. It's because we read the first 2 as book club, and then I kind of got distracted with other books I had to read in January, so I stopped reading, but I will be circling back. So book 3 is called Club 22, and book 4 is called Timber. And my friend Jessie from book club let me know that Timber is actually like super emotional. So she told me it was kind of giving like Hunting Adeline vibes. So if anyone has read Hunting Adeline and then you go to Hunting Adeline, like I remember that one was just so emotionally draining. So I was also a little bit scared because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But essentially what the Hades series is, it is a why choose romance where the main female character, she ends up getting 3 boyfriends. One is like a burly biker guy with a huge age gap. One is like the sweet guy that's a little bit younger than her, and I'm not going to go more into that because I don't want to spoil that. And then one is her best friend and has been her best friend for forever. Her name is Hayden. She goes by Hades though because she kind of runs this underground society that she took over when she unalived her father and her fiance like years and years ago. I think that if you read more Tate James books, you would hear more about her backstory. I'm pretty sure I started like in the middle of the entire world. I think maybe if you read Madison Kate series first, it might give more, but I don't know. So don't quote me on that. However, I wasn't completely lost just diving in right to the Hades series. Like everything was kind of like back told. So that I did fine with that. I will be finishing that series. I just don't know when I will be emotionally strong enough to get there. So TBD, okay? Okay, next I read The Broken Princess Brutal Queen duet, and my gosh, I love this duet. So I've talked about this a lot on my TikTok channel, my Instagram channel, and I made an entire YouTube video on it. This duet, oh my gosh. So Laura and I, which is Laura Bennett is the author of that, we've gone back and forth talking about this so much. I have no idea how she is not already like blown up. Like her writing style is so freaking good. So I was so excited to go from reading the Hades series to this duet because the vibes were similar, right? This one is also a Why Choose story. It follows a mafia princess who's married off to a mafia prince. Like the parents marry them off so that way the two mafia groups can live together without any issues. But the problem is, as soon as she gets married off, it turns out her husband is a psychopath. So like the prologue to the book starts off with her being like just beaten, and there's a guy hanging from the ceiling, and she opens one of her eyes and notices like it's her dad, and her husband had also taken her dad and beaten her dad. And the thing was, the husband was supposed to unalive both of them. And so that's how the prologue starts, like, holy cow. And the husband ends up calling this cleanup crew, which is 4 guys that work for the mafia, and they just clean up, get rid of the bodies, you know what I mean? And so they show up in the first chapter or 2, and 2 of them are dating. So out of the 4 guys, 2 of them are already dating, and then there's 2 extra guys. And they show up, and the girl opens one of her eyes. She was supposed to no longer be living, right? And she manages to open one of her eyes. I guess she hadn't died. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is the mafia princess. They recognize her right away. So they have a choice: either follow the husband's orders and get rid of the bodies, or bring her back and take care of her. And so obviously that's what they choose, not knowing that the other body was her dad. Like, they'll eventually learn that. The reader gets that, but they don't know that. And so they have to like nurse her back to health. And obviously the first book's called Broken Princess, and then it ends on a cliffhanger. Luckily, Brutal Queen, the next book, and the duet is out. Both are available on KU, because I ended Broken Princess and went right into Brutal Queen. So you guys kind of see one book where she's broken, right? And then obviously she like ends up taking over everything, and she's a bad bitch, you know? So that book is great. And the spice in that book, in those books, chef's kiss, love it. Finally finished Madness by Shantel Tessier. I have been pushing this off so much, and I know we've talked about this a lot. So I started it around Halloween, so in end of October of 2024, and I finally finished it in January. And it's not because I did not like it. It's just that around that time, I started working a lot with authors, and then I had my book club book of every week. So it just kept getting pushed. Like, book club books became front and center, then working with authors came right after, and so Madness just kept getting kicked down the line. So I finally finished it as an audiobook in January, and I'm really glad that at least the parts I kept skipping, so I'd be like 100 pages, then like wait 2 weeks, and then do another 50 pages, then wait 2 weeks. At least the parts that I was choppy on was like the first half of the book. And if you've ever read the Lord series by Shantel Tessier, the first half is always just like building, and it isn't until like the last half, or even sometimes the last third of the book, that's like bang 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 bang, everything's happening. So I was able to at least get like that last bit as like one solid, like I am listening to it all the way through. And so that helped me like at least give it this 5-star read it deserved, because I do that sometimes where if I take too long to read a book, it will drop the score. But it's not the author's fault, it's not the book's fault, it's my fault for not actually like sitting down and reading it in the amount of time that it should be read. So glad I was able to finish that. Absolutely loved Hayden. I liked Charlotte a lot. Ashton in that book started to piss me off, and Saint too. Like, I didn't really like them in this book. Like, Ashton was giving pick-me vibes. She was really annoying. I was frustrated that Hayden's nickname for Ashton was Baby Girl, because I loved that. And then his nickname for Charlotte was Dollface, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. So I loved Hayden calling Ashton Baby Girl in Carnage, but then him calling her Baby Girl when that's not his girl in Madness pissed me off. I was like, stop calling her that. Like, I was heated for Charlotte. There was times where Charlotte was like jealous, and people have been like, so what? Like, blah, blah, blah. No, like, I don't know. I'm like, don't talk to Ashton. Ashton, you need to let him go. But by the end of the book, the two girls were fine. But I'm like, Ashlyn's going to need to kind of like step it up in the next book for me to like like her again. Because right now I'm like, not a huge fan of the. Then the next book I've read but I did not read was actually Satan's Affair by H.G. Carlton. I have already read this book, so I elected just to like chat about it again without having to reread it. If you're not aware, this is Sibby's like little novella book that she got. If you have not read Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline yet and you think you want to, like you've read the triggers and you've decided that's what you want to do, I highly recommend reading Satan's Affair first, because if you read Haunting and Hunting Adeline first, the ending of Satan's Affair is spoiled for you in that book. So when I read Satan's Affair, I had already read the other two books, and so I already knew like the plot twist at the end, and I was like, dang it, I kind of wish that I hadn't read Hunting Adeline first, because the plot twist would have just hit differently. So I let a lot of people know in book club when we were reading that book, if you have not read Haunting and Hunting Adeline yet, read this first. And a lot of people were able to actually be like, dang, that was sick. We did the Mindf series right after that. So if you have not read that, I highly, highly recommend that series. I actually did it as a reread, even though I read it about 2 years ago, because A, it had been 2 years and I forget everything, so fair enough. But two, I just love that book so dang much. It's technically 5 books that kind of come into one, but each book is about like 130 to 170 pages, so it's nothing crazy. I think it helps if you have a reading goal that you want to like up the numbers for. It follows a serial unaliver who is getting revenge on an entire town for what they did to her and her family. But right at the beginning of the book, she meets and falls for the FBI agent that's in charge of her case. And so what a wild time that was. That book made me laugh. That book made me cry. That book made me want to throat punch people. Like, after reading that book, I'm like, I want to learn Krav Maga and every kind of fighting thing. Like, I want to know how to throw knives and work everything. Like, that empowerment is wild from that book. I've talked about that. I think I did another YouTube video, so if I could tag it here, I went into depth about it. It's hard to say it's a dark romance. Like, it's a dark romance, but the darkness is not within the romance. Not like some of these books that I read. The darkness is definitely outside of the romance. Like, Logan, the MMC is like golden retriever vibes versus like the dark romance we're used to. And I love him for it because he needs to be, because Lana has gone through way too much to like, if she had an MMC like this, absolutely not. They would not have worked. But love that series. I forgot most of it. So I guess apparently I have a 2-year holding threshold, and I didn't even know who the original like serial killer in the book was. So I was able to like reread it and be re-surprised. So that was really good. And then I read The Other Brother by my friend Tierney. So Tierney Page, she is a book talker. She's on Instagram, everything like that. She's way bigger than me. I absolutely adore her. Her and I are mutuals. Every time one of her videos comes in, she has such a talent for retelling books. Like, she speaks so well. She animates so well. She just sits there with like a glass of wine and her little mic, or like something in her mic, and she is able to retell a story quickly, efficiently. I love the way she retells the story. So when I found out that she was writing a book, she actually reached out and was like, would you like to read my arc? And I was like, say less, let's go. So this was her debut novel, which was so fantastic. Like, I could never write a book. I just really couldn't. And to read her first book and be like, dang, this is so good, was so awesome to see. So it's called The Other Brother. So like, obviously the girl's going to be with one brother and then she will end up being with the other brother. But I feel like a lot of authors overplay that and they'll make you hate the first brother right off the bat. And then you're like, okay, obviously I'm ready for the second brother. But I feel like Tierney started it off like kind of how you would feel in the situation, that you love the brother. Like the very first brother, you kind of like him, and then he hurts your feelings and so you're gutted. And I think she did a really great job of setting it up that you as the reader had to experience almost the same thing that the FMC was feeling. You fell for the one brother and then he turned out to be a giant D-bag. And now you're crushed and now you're gonna go fall for the other brother. She also has really great side characters. Like the FMC's best friend Gemma is so funny, and she's gonna get her next book hopefully this year, I believe. So I'm really excited to see her book because she was perfection. And then I think my last book I read this month was technically getting ready for Fantasy February, which is the next theme. But I started Fourth Wing, and I finished Fourth Wing. I read that in like 3 days. I did it as like an audiobook and reading. So I did the immersive reading. Again, I made a YouTube video on it, so I'll see if I can try to tag it. Fantastic. And it fits the vibe because Violet is such a BBE. Like her growth and her development throughout the book, like she takes zero shit, right? Like right off the bat, her and Xaden like dislike each other, enemies to lovers, but she doesn't like cower in fear from him. She's like, absolutely not. Like you can hate me, that's fine, but I hate you right back. So I'm glad I read that not only for Fantasy February, but also like kicked it off in January because it set the theme, it matched the theme so well. But yeah, January was good. I started off so strong this year, and I don't know if that means like I'm not even gonna say that. I'm speaking it into existence. That means I'm about to have the best reading year I've ever had. And I already know it because going into February, I'm starting Iron Flame and I'm already loving it. And then I'm gonna read Onyx Storm, and I'm gonna read Phantasma or listen to that as an audiobook. And I am going to do Quicksilver as an audiobook. I heard that's so good. And I have so many recommendations of fantasy books to read. So I think this year is going to be my year. And then after that, I think we're going to do like Mafia March or something like that. Like the themes are going to be great. So if you're interested in the book club and you're not already in the book club, please come join us. Everybody is welcome. Otherwise, I will keep making all these long form videos and TikTok videos and Instagram videos to keep everybody posted. But that was my wrap up, and I had a great time. And thank you to everybody that's come along with this journey with me, because what a month it's been, and I'm so pumped for February. So if you don't already, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future updates or videos, and I will see you next time.